Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Today we have with us Dr. Debbie. And so it is such a privilege for me to have Dr. Debbie join us on this beautiful morning. I'm your host, Cynthia Rose, and today we will be having a candid conversation because Dr. Debbie has a wealth of information. So this time, I will go ahead and have Dr. Debbie introduce herself. Tell us a little bit more about, herself. In addition to that, she will be sharing with our audience her journey to becoming a DMFT. Take it away.
Well, first and foremost, I must say thank you so much for inviting me and having me share in the She Emerge community. I'm so grateful to be here to share my journey, but really to share what I like to call is nothing but God. He
Amen.
always has a plan more than I could ever imagine, ask, or think of. And so, really, that's what happened years and years ago, way back in 2010. I had what I called my career versus my calling journey. And it was a time where I was just finishing college. So I went to Howard University for my bachelor's. I studied communications and African American studies. And true to Howard form, it's rich in tradition as well as faith. And so I was very involved with a group called Chapel Assistance, where we did different mission and service trips throughout the United States. The one that I was heavily involved with was during Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. We took a trip down there, and that really showed me the pain of people in the midst of crisis and trauma. And from that, I wanted to do more, something different. I wanted to use my voice and ability to connect people and be resourceful in a new way. And so when I moved back home from Washington, D.C., back to Florida, I started to not only realize that level of pain is happening in everyday lives.
Globally.
People feel stuck in crisis,
Wow.
people feeling like they don't understand what has happened to them. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to learn more because I did not know about the mental health field per se. I took psychology in undergrad, but I was not familiar with the field of marriage and family therapy.
Mhm.
Um, and so I really wanted to be an advocate for those who were the voiceless in the community. And I moved on to get my master's at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And I'll share more about that journey later. But in terms of the DMFT program and journey, I would say along the way of getting my master's, I had the chance to go to Rick Warren's church. Rick Warren is the pastor of Saddleback Church, and he wrote The Purpose Driven Life.
Mhm.
His wife, Kay Warren, leads the mental health initiative there, and they hosted a conference in 2015, and it totally added to this calling journey. They shared the struggles and the pain that they experienced through the death of their son, who chose death by suicide, as
Mhm.
well as other struggles from various church members and family members. And after that conference, I remember connecting and sharing with other people in various church communities who began to share similar sentiments of experiencing a pastor choosing death by suicide or a family member recognizing that they are experiencing depression or schizophrenia. And they didn't really have the tools or support. And so I wanted to go to Nova for my doctorate and gain insight on how do we to create a program that can help churches, a ministry that can be replicated at diverse churches so they can have all the tools that they need to
Mhm.
support the families that they serve. And so that is why I'm here today. That was my focus, all about faith and therapy.
That is so incredibly potent. And I'm so glad you decided on going to Nova because that's where we met. Our lives intersected there.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was heaven sent as well. Mhm.
Yes. So, with that said, how have you, empowered women? Because I noticed you are Debbie, right? And not only that, outside of being Dr. Debbie, you empower across the globe. Can you
Mhm.
share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, another part of the DMFT journey, if you will, is really finding the population that you want to focus on.
Hmm.
So we were always taught that in school to think that through, to be intentional. And for me, I felt like God was saying, serve the widow and the child. That is where I need you. And throughout my journey, I've created different initiatives from Moms Like Me. I've also supported different mother support groups such as You Moms. Right now, we have a partnership with Protective Factors Group, which is my nonprofit private practice,
Hmm.
where we provide
Congratulations.
therapy to all of the U Moms members. And so it is my goal to empower women,
Hmm.
whether they are mothers or leaders in the community, focus on growing their career, CEOs, directors, at all levels. My goal is to make sure they take the time for their mental health and wellness and that they too have the tools and support that they need.
Hmm. I love that. Was that also your connection with You're Not Alone? I noticed you also were on board with that initiative as well.
Yes, so again, way back in the day, in 2010, with everything that I began to learn about the mental health field, there was this sense of powerlessness
Mhm,
where people felt like they truly were alone. And
mhm,
so I launched a mental health social media campaign called Your Life Matters, and
mhm,
it was hashtag Life Matters. And we did different chats on Twitter back then, because now it's X. We also did different webinars and workshops promoted through Facebook and Instagram, really trying to empower everyday people to recognize that you start at enough, that your life matters, and anything that you do that's important to you has meaning and worth. And
mhm,
sometimes we see um, the celebrities, the sports athletes, Olympians that we look up to. But we forget to recognize that even before they got to that level or that title, even before I became Dr. Debbie, I was just Debbie. I was a child of God.
mhm,
And when you know that the creator of the earth, the savior of our world says, you are special, you are enough, that totally transforms your mindset.
mhm. Oh, don't get me started on that. I love it. So, absolutely. I also want to punctuate, that yes, faith and mental health can coexist.
That's
And
right.
you were able to describe that in such a powerful way. So, even in that vein, as a qualified supervisor, can you share with us what does that process look like? Because not only are you a licensed marriage and family therapist, but you're also a licensed mental health counselor. Two things can be true. Go ahead.
Yes. So I am a Florida qualified supervisor for
Mm,
MFTs and MHCs, just as you shared. So I welcome anyone who's studying family therapy or mental health in what I call a parallel process,
mm,
because we must be accountable to our trainees. We have to adhere to a sense of responsibility for our actions, of course, and even the outcomes, just as therapists in training are accountable to
mhm,
scaffold their clients through all of the different treatment plans or goals. And so, as a supervisor, I feel that we must be aware of our way of being in training, our influence regarding sometimes what can seem like a power imbalance, and
mhm,
really holding space for the family system that even may show up from the therapist in training.
mm,
Working with clients who are overcoming substance abuse, trauma, adverse childhood experiences can trigger our therapists in training of what they've gone through in their own life. And so we have to really support trainees through mentoring, modeling, working through a lens of this is a process.
mhm,
This is not just about the content. So
mhm.
we're going to use reflective practice. We're going to teach the tuning your ear map, which I'm sure you're familiar with
Mhm.
from Dr. Hibble and Polenko at Nova. And
Yes.
so I would say my map really draws upon um, this postmodern understanding of not being the expert,
Mhm,
but really entering this space of being to bear witness to my trainees' growth. And I do that in alignment with narrative ideals. So to me, narrative ideas in the relationship of supervision really recognize the process of performance over time. And what that looks like is us really discovering together who the trainee is, who do they prefer to be, and then giving them some coaching, some motivation,
mhm,
learning that they too are a teacher, just as I am teaching them.
mhm,
Yes, we have to be mindful of the administrative side, but if we don't have space to really mentor and support, I think even trainees can feel alone sometimes or misunderstood. And so I encourage supervisors who may watch this later to think about what is their role as an advocate for your trainees, as a gatekeeper to protect your trainee. How do you want the progression of the field to be? Because they're going to be the next leaders. And
mhm,
so I just hope that anyone who's watching this who is looking for a supervisor or is thinking about even refining their role as a supervisor to really use that lens of this process has to be collaborative. And so for me, we have time. I'd love to share my 4 goals. These are my go-to goals. Um, when a trainee comes in and they're on their pathway to becoming a therapist, I try to set ground rules and really explain the expectations. That way, the trainee has the opportunity to understand what are the rules of confidentiality. They can review a supervisory contract and really see, like, okay, is this a journey that I want to commit to? And then we go a little deeper. We talk through microaggressions.
mhm,
We also give the freedom for trainees not to participate or respond. If they need a moment to think through something even more, then I don't want to push them or challenge them, especially if they're not ready to move into a particular space. I also think it's important to highlight as you're getting to know your trainee, thinking through what does a safe environment look like where you have a working alliance. So that way, once the trainee feels comfortable and they recognize, okay, sometimes I can hold this to myself, but I also can trust my supervisor to bring up
mhm,
difficult parts of the session, misspoken words, when I recognize I actually had to report abuse and not feel a shame or that they had to get it just right or perfect, that
Mhm.
this truly is a learning environment where they can explore, different ideas, they can take risks, but also they can question like, am I doing solution focus right? Am I doing narrative right? Should I get more training and learn EMDR? And so I think once you build that working alliance with your trainee, then encourage them to continue their learning. Because I'm a family therapist, I would recommend trainings with the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. They provide different supervisory course, um, trainings on code of ethics, and the ability for you to one day also, for those who may be watching and interested to become a supervisor one day, you get your credentials towards that. And so those highlight, my main goals when it comes to supervision.
Mhm. Well said. And so what I also hear is that isomorphic relationship, right? You're definitely that mentor, just watching you go through the program as well, participating not only as a scholar, but you are like that rep, you know, you are that rep. And even as we worked on the FFTA board, right?
Mhm.
I saw you embody a lot of those characteristics that you are talking about. It's not just a speech or something you read. This is your lived experience. I love it. I love all of it. So, yes, I've listened to you, and it sounds like you have gained plethora of, experiences. Can you say a little bit more about the fellowship that you participated in, just in case someone is, watching and they would like to know more information? I notice you're also collaborating with WMMA. I want to say that you are definitely that trailblazer, I would say.
Oh, wow. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. You're very welcome. And just share a little bit about that aspect of what you're doing.
Sure. So, you know, when I think about my journey, ever since I was 5, I
Hmm.
wanted to be a doctor one day.
Oh,
I did not necessarily know what the area of specialty would be,
yeah.
but I must say, we had an incredible time at Nova Southeastern University. And
Yes.
so, everyone watching, we're going to now promote the
Okay.
Doctor of Couples and Family Therapy program. We attended the College of Osteopathic Medicine,
Hmm.
um, marriage and family therapy program, and they have two. So if you are interested in going clinical, you would do what I completed, the DMFT, or if you want to focus on research, then you would do the PhD, like Ms. Sophia Rose.
That would be
So,
me.
doctor, we got to say doctor, right? And so I would share, find your passion when you're going for your educational studies, because mine at Nova was, yes, the intersection of faith and therapy, but I also had a chance to explore neuroscience related to epigenetics and the impact of historical trauma, intergenerational trauma. I also studied a lot around holistic perinatal care and then really building resiliency. And so at Nova, what is awesome is that you get to be involved in so many different events, programs, and projects. So always put yourself out there. Find what speaks to you, that you feel is connecting with your calling. And so I found a few organizations, some that were in the community related to the doctoral program and requirements, and then others were directly from Nova. So I'm gonna just go down the list real quick. So Throughout my journey, I was a New Leaders Council fellow. So I highly recommend wherever you are in Florida watching this or even across the nation, look for the New Leaders Council in your community. Um, it is divided by different cities. So there's one in Broward County, Palm Beach County, and Miami. For those of you who are in South Florida, like me and Sophia Rose.
Mhm.
And so, with that opportunity, I got to be a Spark Talk speaker. So it's kind of like TED Talks.
Yes.
And this was when I was doing the Your Life Matters campaign. And I did a speech on no more suicide notes, love letters for life, because there was a time period where there were so many faith leaders who were making headlines for choosing death by suicide. And so this conference was in Texas at the time.
Mhm.
It was over 400 attendees. This was like my first really big speech focused on mental health advocacy. So I would share for anyone who is a student thinking about, how can I make a difference? How can I make a change? Take what you're learning along the way in your journey and share it with others, especially those organizations that you serve in. I've also partnered with FSU and the T. Leroy Jefferson Medical Society. I hosted several workshops, a podcast focused on compassion fatigue and mindfulness in the medical community. And it was really an honoring experience
Mhm.
to increase awareness on mental health and suicide prevention in the Black community. From there, I was selected to be a part of the 0 to 3 Moving Forward with Mindfulness cohort, and so I say take advantage of different national groups that align with your studies that can give you more support and information on where you want to go. In school, there's also different sororities and fraternities for professional students. For the family therapy field, it is Delta Kappa International, Marriage and Family Therapy Honor Society. I was inducted and also had an opportunity to serve as a family therapy representative for the Graduate Student Government Association. And that was a really exciting time because we got to listen to the voice of the student and plan events that help them successfully matriculate. We also did a big cruise one year, so that was a lot of fun. We cruised around Fort Lauderdale. Um, and so along the way, as you're focused on getting that degree, do not neglect your self care and your relationships. That is the time to network, build friendships, and also you never know where you may be. You may be here, like me, on She Emerge with Dr. Sophia Rose, who we went to school together just as she started the show. And
Yes.
so, think wrapping up your question in terms of other opportunities to look for if you're going for your master's or even your doctoral degree within family therapy under our main organization, the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. There is the Minority Fellowship program, and they provide master's or doctoral level fellowships. Master's usually starts at 10,000 a year, and it goes directly to you. You can use it for a new car, tuition, books, housing, whatever you need, so you can be successful in finishing your master's program. The same for the doctoral fellowship, but the amount is increased to 20,000 a year. And each year it changes. Sometimes they're able to get a little more with the grant, but you never know unless you apply. So I encourage you, please apply. Um, for this program, I remember they flew us out to California, y'all, for
Mm.
a week of intensive training in family therapy. It was incredible. It was amazing to meet fellow therapists from around the United States, hear their research, as well as see different experts come to share their career journeys with us. But I keep making these faces because you know something was coming.
Yeah.
Also, the time that COVID hit,
Mhm.
So we had to pivot the entire program. Um, it was moved to online, of course, but for me, in true connecting style, I wanted to make sure that we still had opportunities to see each other and support each other. And so there was a community impact grant from the AAMFT Minority Fellowship Program. And so I did two initiatives that were educational based events where therapists could learn about substance abuse and suicide prevention in partnership with some of the local nonprofits here in South Florida, such as Healthier Delray Beach and the Hanley Foundation. And so this event included free lunch, yoga mats, and a gift bag to really cater to therapists who we were on the front lines. We didn't stop because COVID came. And so I wanted to give them a time to focus on their self care. And as the fellowship wrapped up, we continue to learn through different webinars and workshops from the Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration. And so it has now really inspired me and um, pushed me to pledge to work in disadvantaged communities so that we can create solutions together to help close those gaps. And that's where my nonprofit private practice comes in.
Mhm.
Protective Factors Group was birthed from what I learned from the Minority Fellowship Program. So that way we can come together to advance family therapy, clinical training, and really champion for policy change in mental health services.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. As I listened to you, I wondered about you know, your vision behind protective factors, but you shared some of that. Whereas, some of the work that you've done emerged out of that space. So I like that. It sounds like you're giving back so much to the community, like you said, disadvantaged. Is there also a sliding scale within your organization?
Yes, so we take Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, Optum, um, Medicare, and then also we recognize that for some people, copays can be very expensive over time. They can add up if you have to do $60 a week each session. And so we provide a sliding scale on top of that to help people um, defray the costs of mental health care and not let it stop their ability to continue their mental wellness journey. We also partner with different churches that help pay the cost. That is a part of my outreach and advocacy, providing trainings for them. And then they also helping the least of these, really, people who may not have insurance, may have gone through a traumatic or crisis event and need urgent care.
Mhm. Thank you for adding that. So, in two or more words, can you describe your emerging journey?
My emerging journey would be God driven and change agent.
Absolutely love that. So, I noticed that there are some people in the community at this time, and I was wondering if there were any Q&As. So let me check real quick. I don't see any questions for you. But is there something that I have not asked that you would have loved to share at this time, just for those who are watching?
So I think about my journey from Howard to Nova
Hmm.
and even how I didn't necessarily know this was the path
Hmm.
that God would have for me. But I am so grateful for all of the community partners, the ministry partners. And so I want to highlight just There are circumstances outside of our control, whether it is the political determinants of health, social determinants of health. I'm thinking about during COVID, I shared about the project I did for therapists, but I really wanted to help churches during that time as well,
Mm,
because most of them completely closed and went online for
yes,
months. And so during that time, I just want to share this story very briefly because I
absolutely.
remember searching and applying for several grants. And
Mm,
so in 2020, I won a mini grant from Healthier Neighbors and then Be Well PBC in 2022. And so I used those funds to create the hashtag Faith and Therapy Mental Health and Church Conference. And this is a learning experience for therapists and ministry leaders, usually on World Mental Health Day. But recently it was held in August with NAMI for the Pathways to Hope initiative. So I'm going to just walk you down this journey so you could see how did it even get there.
yeah.
The first conference was online due to the pandemic, but it featured Gabriela Zapata Alma, who serves as the Director of Policy and Practice for Domestic Violence and Substance at the National Center for Domestic Violence, Trauma, and Mental Health. We also featured Mr. Jermaine Laurie. He's the Chief Operating Officer and Director of the Minority Fellowship Program with AAMFT, now under the Foundation for the Advancement of Human Systems. And then we, made sure that we brought in other leaders and partners from the community, whether it was from United Way, Dr. Seth Bernstein, or NAMI, PBC, Catherine Murphy, CEO. Um, and even partnering with politicians like State Senator Bobby Powell, Commissioner Shalonda Warren, and Commissioner Kathleen Ward. This event was free and open to pastors, church staff, church volunteers, and mental health professionals at all levels. It truly became what I like to call heart work because
Mm,
I want to sincerely unite mental health and faith communities because the core of what we need to focus on is community, is the people. And so, in doing that, I was able to create different mental health ministries and a model, really. Along with the conference, I created the diversity scholarship with funds from the grants so I could award a minority scholar who was also studying for their master's to become a therapist. So we awarded Valerie Alexandra Hidalgo and Mecca Mosley. We're so proud of them and we wish them blessings on their journeys as therapists. And this all came together because I came from humble beginnings. My
mhm.
father is a pastor, now retired, and not a pastor of a mega church like we have today. So the only way I was able to go for my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate was through my faith and scholarships. So I always try to give back and support that next generation. And in order for you to take all of this information back, to be able to have a blueprint, you can download my Thrive Mind, Body, and Soul Care ebook. This is a free resource where faith communities can have these frequent and transparent conversations about mental health. Again, it's free to download. You can go to my website, protectivefactorsgroup.org, and learn from different national and local therapists, ministry leaders, and gain steps for prevention, recovery, support, and wellness. So I had to add that in there because it's so important that people have the tools and the resources. Once they hear about the story, then think through what can I do and what can be helpful to transform right where they are.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. I love the idea of creating those spaces. Not only that, but to help others by sharing your resources. That's it, sharing your resources, right?
what it's about. We
Yeah.
all grow together. We all win together. This
Mhm.
is not a competition.
It is so
There's
not.
so many people that need our help. So
Yes.
you learn, you get your degrees, and
Mhm.
then you give back.
Faith and ministry along with your career. I so, value that as well. Thinking back about what you said earlier in terms of this idea of career, and ministry, all of those things, they all blend together. And I love that. Career and calling. So, with that, as we wrap up, what would you say your takeaway or takeaways would be from our conversation today?
So I know I've shared a lot,
A
and
lot.
sometimes people even ask, like, how do you do it all?
Mm,
Well, one, I would say for me, it doesn't feel like a lot. It feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
mm,
so I want everyone to give themselves that space and grace to
mhm,
not get caught in the comparison trap,
mhm.
because change comes from you making the choice to show up, apply yourself, and be a servant leader. Don't just go get your blessing, be a blessing as
You could not have coined that any better. So, having unpacked so much, where can the broader audience connect with you on your social handles?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful again to have been here today on Chi Emerge. And I hope that all of you stay connected with me at Dr. Debbie LMFT. So, shout out to all my fellow marriage and family therapists.
Shout out.
Um,
Oh,
in my private practice, again, is Protective Factors. So, it's at Protective Factors. Um, for both of them, it's on all social media, Instagram, Facebook. I look forward to connecting with you all.
thank you so much. And as you mentioned earlier, your ebook, is that also in your link on your social handles or just on your website?
Yes, there's the link tree that they can get the direct link to it, or if you go to the website, you can easily download it as well.
Okay. And in addition to that, I can also, add some of those leads, information, resources in the show note, in the description. So, yeah, we thank you so much, Dr. Debbie. And it was such a privilege having you here. Absolutely.
Thank
And for sure, you will be coming back,
you.
as
That-
you said, collaboration over competition.
That's right. Let's collaborate.
Yes, let's collaborate. And so, audience, you joined, you listened, and depending on where you are, you can always come back to rewatch this episode because there are so many gems, so many gems. And, as I've always shared, if you have not yet subscribed, be the first
That's
when
right.
a new episode drops, right? Share, like it, and keep on subscribing, you know, to whatever channel resonates with you. But in particularly to this one, I would encourage you down below. That's right. Just go ahead and subscribe. It helps me a lot, even when you watch this episode in its entirety, because, like I said, there are so many information that have been shared, weekly. And so you don't want to miss out. So thanks again for joining us on this journey. She emerged, and I want you to, throughout the course of this weekend, until we meet again, take care of you. Like Dr. Debbie said, practice your self care. Yeah, absolutely, because self care is a priority. And so, because of that, I want you to be able to, continue on that path to self care, love on yourself, where you are able to just honor yourself for being who you have been called, whether it's in your career or in ministry. Because again, this platform is all about faith plus mental health. Okay. We're thinking holistically. So, guys, until the next podcast, just take care of you.